study versus learn a language without studying. I want to give you my thoughts on what you should potentially do to help you in long-term language learning. My name is Franklin, and this is first1000hours.com. And so I want to also talk to you about something that you might want to potentially avoid doing primarily. I don't think that that means you shouldn't do it altogether, but you might want to, out of those two options, avoid doing something primarily, again, for long-term language learning. And I will share with you my thoughts about that. So let's go ahead and continue in this presentation. So my question is this: if your primary way of learning a language is studying grammar, will that language be useful to you for 1,000 hours? Again, we're trying to get to our first 1,000 hours here. And the reason why I ask that question is sometimes people say here at first 1,000 hours, I have gone away from the language I was trying to study and I need to get back into doing it. And so the question is, why do people have that conversation, or why do they say that? And the only conclusion I can come to, or one of the conclusions, I can't read people's minds, but one thing I think is that language learning sometimes is an abstract thing. It's not a real practical thing. It has no real value or use in someone's real world day. And so they stop with the language because they need to do other things that they consider more useful. And so if you are primarily studying grammar only, or primarily doing that for language learning, then you might run into the same roadblock long term. Now, you might like to study grammar and do that for the primary part of your language learning journey, for maybe 5 hours, 10 hours, 20 hours, or something like that. But when you're talking about 1,000 hours, you really have to consider your focus. All right, let's go ahead and continue in this presentation. I want to share with you about learning a language without studying, and this is my preferred method of learning a language. So I want you to do this. Think about how your day would go if you couldn't use your native tongue at all for one full day. Let's say that your native tongue was English, like it is for myself, and let's say I couldn't read in English, I couldn't write in English, I couldn't talk to people in English, or I couldn't do anything. It would be a lot. It would be kind of difficult for me to go throughout my day and not use English, because I like to read the Bible in English in the morning. I like to be able to read a Christian book in English. I like to, go on YouTube and I like to listen to things in English. I also like to go to work, right? And so I do my job in English, and I listen sometimes to the radio in English, and I read other things on the internet in English. I use my computer, and some of my computer settings are in English, and all these different things. So it would be a challenge for me to separate English from my day-to-day life, because it is extremely useful. Now, let's go ahead and go back to this presentation. So the thing is, the more a language is useful, the more you'll continue using it during your first 1,000 hours. All right, it is my belief that a language is best learned when it is primarily used rather than studied. One other thing I would miss out if I was not using English for that day, I wouldn't have conversations with people. I would not be able to potentially express my thoughts with people in English. Now, I can speak in Spanish, but I'm talking about specifically with people that only know English. I would then miss out in those type of conversations with those people. All right, let's continue. All right, and I talked about this concept in an interview I did, or actually Zach Ascott did with me about last year, around this time last year. And I want you to watch that full interview that he had with me, because I think you'll pick up some more points. So I will put a YouTube card right up here so that you can watch that interview. All right, so let's continue. He was asking me about language learning. That was the interview. So I want to show you some of the Spanish activities I've done. I've gone to a Spanish church. I haven't just gone there like one time or two times or three times or 10 times. I don't know how many times I've gone, but it probably is at least 50 times, probably more than that. I've gone to Spanish church Zoom meetings. I've gone to so many of them. I have lost track of how many times I've gone. And actually, right after this live stream, I'm going to go to another Spanish church Zoom meeting. I've watched Spanish YouTube videos on a variety of subjects. That's been on business, that's been on church, that's been on nature, that has been on other things, other different things. I've learned about how people have learned Spanish or other languages, not necessarily Spanish, but I've learned how people have learned other languages, actually including Spanish, from watching videos in Spanish. And I've done other things. I've read Spanish books. I've listened to Spanish audio. I did a language exchange with someone. I did that for 9 months where we talked in English and Spanish. I have taken Spanish courses. Now, when I say Spanish courses, those are things to help me learn something outside of Spanish, but they've been in Spanish. I have used some Spanish at work. Now, a lot of people don't necessarily need to for someone to speak Spanish at the work that I'm at in the location I'm at, but I have on occasion, rarely, used some Spanish at work. I've written things in Spanish. I've had Spanish conversations. So there are just so many things that I have done in Spanish. And so I have tried more and more to stack up things in my life so that it's going to be hard for me not to use Spanish. Therefore, that helps me to have long-term contact with Spanish because I have focused on using Spanish instead of just looking at it as a study. So, now I want to talk to you about my vision that I had for reading. I think this will be practical because you could say, okay, Franklin, I'm not where you are. And it's nice that you're able to do these activities and all of that. But I don't even know how to read a native level Spanish book, for instance. How am I going to get to that point of using Spanish more and more? So I just want to talk to you about where I was when I was, I think this was still when I was reading my first Spanish book that's called El Camino Cristo. And it was very hard. It was a big struggle for me. And there's a mindset I needed. And I'll share with you that mindset if you want to look at this video right up here. But anyway, I thought when I was reading that book, I believe, that I was going to get to the point where I was going to transfer reading into a habit that I would have where it went, because I thought that it was going to get easier for me to read and that I would be able to transfer some of the way that I read and just do that all in Spanish. And it has happened that is the case right now for myself, that has happened. But I had to have a vision, and then the Lord blessed, and I'm able to do that now. And so reading is a habit for myself. So I have shared many times about my reading progress, and I haven't, at this point, I haven't gotten as where I want to get to in Spanish for this year, but I have read a lot. I've read a lot in Spanish. And one of the reasons why that's happened is because reading is a habit for me. It's a part of my lifestyle, reading in Spanish. And so what I would say for yourself is it's good to think about how can the language that you're learning be so ingrained in your lifestyle that you it's extremely useful for you. Okay, so I'm going to give you a challenge to help that be the case for you right now. This is something that I believe you can do if it's day 1, if it's day 10, if it's day 100, and that is I'm going to ask that you change your smartphone settings to the language that you are learning. And if you do that, you should be able to do that because you have used your smartphone most likely so much that you know where the general things are in your smartphone that you need. So go ahead and change that to the language that you're seeking to learn. If that's Spanish, change it to Spanish because that's going to help you to associate, Spanish words and things like that in a practical sense and get you to start using Spanish from day 1. And that's what I have done for myself. I've changed my Spanish phone settings. My phone settings to Spanish. And sometimes I forget about that because I will show my phone to my friends and other people. And then they say, oh, it's in Spanish. And it's like, oh, of course it's in Spanish. That's I mean, I don't think about that too much because that's part of my life. And so that's what you should do for yourself as well. And I want to share with you again that video that Zach Ashcott did. He interviewed me about my thoughts on language learning last year, and I think that you'll find that to be very helpful in your language learning journey. And there's a video that YouTube recommends, and I hope to see you in the next video.